Okay, so I'm gonna do a video. There's gonna be kind of two things. One, but things I'm just thinking of. So number one, Pascal's wager. So there's four scenarios. Scenario one, God is real. You believe in Him. Yay. Uh, God is real. You don't believe in Him. Eternal damnation. Scenario three, God isn't real and you believe in Him. You may waste some time. God isn't real and you don't believe in Him. Cool. Um, so kind of the idea is obviously there's one objective bad one. So I don't believe in God. Pascal's wager is dumb. It is obviously rudimentally like it's a nice introduction to certain philosophical ideas, and like, I remember learning about one of my early philosophy classes or logic, but it fundamentally on a math equation it makes sense, but that's it's 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 just wrong in the sense of I'm not talking about disrespect for religion or other stuff like that. It fundamentally doesn't work. If you study Christianity, you can't do it like that. Let me explain. So let's say you have um trying to get an analogy. So let's say you have a partner in a relationship and you and there's again four scenarios. You see something weird in their phone. Maybe you don't see something weird. Let's say you maybe suspect something. You can believe them and they're not cheating on you. Believe them, they are cheating on you. Not believe them and they're not cheating on you. Not believe them and they're not cheating and they are cheating on you. You know what I mean? So same four options. And they're kind of trying to apply that logic there, where it's like there's definitely one you don't want to have. Obviously in the situation with the relationship, I guess there's a couple you don't want to have. It's kind of just a shitty situation all over, but they're acting as if it's something like a choice you do. Like let's say you check the phone or something, and you talk to them, and they're cheating or whatever, and you kind of get to the bottom of that, and then it's just that's kind of that. They're treating it like a mortal affair, and I realize that that's kind of a really shitty analogy, but that's kind of it. It doesn't work like that, and I'll kind of get to that instead of being on the bush. So you can't just be like, "Oh, I believe in God because of Pascal's wager," and like obviously you wouldn't say it mentally, but you believe in out of fear, out of this, and there's lots of verses about a lot of talk about it, but you can't believe in God out of fear, out of forcing to, or out of just logistical assurance. That isn't true belief. And from what I know about God, I'm probably an agnostic, maybe an atheist. If God is the Christian depiction, if that is reality, God would not accept that. You would just go to hell. So realistically, believe what you believe is my opinion. Pascal's wager is dumb. If you find your heart God's truly and follow God, become a Christian and become the best version that you can see fit. If you don't believe God's real, then you don't. If you want to feel God's real, there's ways. If you have that inner turmoil, then that's something to explore. But to do Pascal's wager to think of it from that mindset is just dumb. And I want to know that the wager itself is dumb. Like on paper, yes, it makes sense. Like obviously, you're smarter to believe in him than not believe in him, but you can't have your entire faith be built on that because it's like building it on sand. And there's all sorts of verses about building churches on hard stones and cornerstones and rocks. Second thing I'm talking about that's kind of a misconception is I'm talking about a couple of things. People just think I mentioned this in the Catholic video, but they talk about, oh, I'm gonna be a horrible person last second. I beg for forgiveness and go to heaven, etc., etc. And they also talk about how I heard someone say like a lot of people who are just really bad people, whether it's really extreme stuff like cheaters, murderers, rapists, pedophiles, all sorts of bad stuff. Become Christians or become these religious groups because there's an unlimited amount of forgiveness that they can just get away with what they want. So I'm gonna break down both those points. So number one, and this is typically from a general Christian perspective, but in particular, I'm talking about Catholicism, because some do actually believe faith alone like doesn't matter. You couldn't do a last second conversion to Christianity, because typically doing it in fear and last second, and it wouldn't be in clear mind. There's certain ways to accept and believe and revere God. There's also the fact that some people believe it might not be quite enough if it's too late. And then in particular with Catholicism, you have to have a genuine belief in your heart. And so a lot of people like again I mentioned this with the Family Guy bit of Osama bin Laden like doing all this stuff. He's obviously Muslim, and the last thing he goes like Jesus Christ, I take him as a true Lord and Savior. Like you know what I mean? You're not genuine with it. And that's the other thing is if somehow you were genuine with it, then you were genuine the whole time. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like you're not really last second repenting, you were living and doing it first. So I mean, some people are Christians who don't even like maybe they're don't like to claim they're one or don't whatever. That's a whole other thing to get into. Secondly, people talk about like the forgiveness being a limited thing for bad people in communities, as well as forgiveness as being a cop out of doing whatever you want. So I'm gonna talk about first off, well, they're kind of similar issues. So that's not the case. Again, we're going to have Catholicism, but a lot of similar practices. So Catholicism has the act of penance or reconciliation, which is basically confession, which is basically their system of forgiveness, which is basically done by a pastor. The church is the one that has the ability to forgive you, but they only have it through the power of God. Obviously, some people do a little different stuff. A lot of other Christian denominations don't have as much power, if any power, on the church. And obviously, there's a lot of other stuff to it. But the core thing of Catholicism with the idea of forgiveness, I think, is phenomenal, even in a non-Christian setting. So let's just break it down what they believe. They believe three cornerstones: contrition, confession, satisfaction. Contrition is feeling deep, like negativity. It's kind of similar to affliction, but you feel you shame, detest the actions you've done. You have the resolve to not repeat it. There's actually a really good writing in my here they have a really good writing. They talk about kind of exactly the wording of it. Hold on, give me a second, gang. The perfect way. Contrition is sorrow of the soul, detesting the action of the sin committed, with resolution not sin again. So again, you're determined not to sin again. You truly feel sorry, not for something else. Again, we're gonna be exploring this non-Christian perspective, just like this is how you feel you committed a bad action. She's smart for committing a bad action. We're gonna call it sin because it's Christian, but I yelled at my partner last night. I'm not Christian, we're both atheists. Let's just say. So how do I start by improving? I feel deep sorrow in my soul. I'm mad at the action. I feel ashamed. I have a resolution. I don't do it again. That's not who I want to be in. That's not appropriate behavior. Next step, I confess. Whether it's to myself, admitting it, which is that. Again, this is not in a religious context for this example. So I confess, obviously not to God per se, but I confess this is what I've done in detail, full honesty to either, I guess it could be a pastor, friend, self, or the person you say, hey, I messed up. And then the third step, which is satisfaction. Some sins, crimes, or morally reprehensible things don't necessarily have a direct victim. But obviously, in my scenario, you yelled at your partner. That is a victim. So satisfying is repairing what a repairing can do, giving reparations, apologizing, making amends, fixing the problem, sending money. So back to the main thing in a religious context. They believe that it's an infinite circle of forgiveness. And yes, there's blinded forgiveness given out. There's almost undeserved forgiveness given out. And there's that in other religious groups. And there's people who do go there to abuse it, but that is not the point of the system. And that's what I want to articulate. A lot of laws are designed and are good, but they're abused. Okay? As a lot of people get mad at food stamps because people abuse it. And people, to an extent, some people do abuse it, but I think people need it. I think it's an amazing thing. And the reason people have an issue is with abuse. And the same reason people argue over insurance and over things being paid for. Well, medical care should be free for all, right? I think it's a no-brainer. But people worry about some people abusing it, which some people do abuse certain things, like medications, but not really in a major stream thing, and that's the issue comes from. So in religion, in Christianity, which I am not saying I defend, I'm not saying I'm part of it, I'm not saying I even believe in, I think that's an unfair take to say, oh, they do it for forgiveness, they do it because they just cop out, it's just, oh, I'll do whatever I want and I can be forgiven. And it's communities of bad people. I think, again, those are people who are not practicing Christians and who aren't getting the full benefit. And again, it's like anything. Any community or group of politics, of philosophy, of music, of passion, of religion, of course, you're going to get bad eggs. Now, there's obviously more of it in certain groups per capita, but in every religion, Islam, Christianity, there's always occasionally people who are not proper, who commit crimes, who cheat, who end up being slanderous or heretical or grope someone, sexual harassment, and much more vulgar things. There's people in political parties. I saw yesterday, there's like some sort of news headline, someone who's supposed to be pretty good peace loving who ended up having this like secret life and was like a neo-Nazi. There's other stuff. There's just endless stuff. I mean, even really cool games or music I like. There's all of a sudden you find out one of the band members is a really bad person, etc., etc. And so it kind of goes with Christianity. I don't think it like the systems that have been set up and people have done things in the name in general have been very detrimental in certain areas, and there's also been a lot of good. And I think that's just the issue is people like that are not actually practicing the word of God, they're just using it. And it's something that people need to remember is using God's name in vain does not just mean don't curse and don't say God dang it. It means don't use his name for bad things. Don't go kill someone and say I'm doing the name of God. That is using God's name in vain. And that is what I'm going to say. So when you say it's in forgiveness, yes, but you have to actually feel bad, so it's not in forgiveness. If I do something bad and I keep doing it, unless there's some other third thing going on, like some other actual mental issue, I'm probably not actually feeling contrition or bad about it. Maybe I do actually remedy it because I feel like I need to, but most likely, if a lot of people understand, think it's just a confession. I confess my sin, and boom, I'm out of it free. No, that's a repeated behavior. And while you can be forgiven for behavior, and at any point in time you can slowly change as a person, decide even if you've done an action numerous times, I truly feel bad and go through the process of forgiveness. I think in a general sense, true forgiveness, like you can't just go do something, I'm sorry, and keep doing it. Eventually, it's like your sorry means nothing. Your ask for forgiveness means nothing. And so people say that they have infinite forgiveness. To an extent, they do, but it's not just like the loophole people think it is. It's the ability to be accepted, the ability to keep messing up within reason. And but obviously, if it's the same mistake and there's no choice or chance of changing, then no, they're not going to be forgiven. And even then, like the whole last second I will take God, or last second I want to be saved, last second this, again, it needs to be genuine heart, soul, and faith. Now, in general, I will say it's a pretty good blueprint for forgiveness in natural atheistic world view of just when you want to forgive someone, move on, or be sorry, you have to show that deep sorry. You have to confess to someone, or be honest and open with it, and then you have to do what you can to fix it. And so to kind of wrap things up, I think those are some big misconceptions I want to talk about, which is Pascal's wager, and then kind of how sin and forgiveness works. Again, that's not necessarily every denomination. I don't speak for anyone, and I'm just speaking from my studies, what I've learned. I've only read a good couple books for Christianity, and I've only practiced it for a couple years in the past when I was a kid through like up to high school. So that's kind of my take. That's my video.